Today we're talking about the 1981 film Blowout, directed by legendary director Brian De Palma, who I have only seen 2 films from, unfortunately. I've heard of so many of these films here. I really need to see Carrie and Scarface. Scarface is one of my, as a film guy, I have not seen it, and that's pretty bad. But yeah, watch Blowout with John Travolta, Nancy Allen, John Lithgow, the 3 real main characters there. And it was great. It was just the type of 80s movie where you're like, they don't make them like this anymore. It's that type of movie where it's just a standalone plot. It's not trying to be a franchise, just trying to be a cool concept. A lot of them maybe crime movies. Maybe those are just the ones that I'm drawn to. Just with this weird unique twist. This one being that John Travolta is a sound recordist, and he recorded a murder happen, and now he's entangled. And as a sound recordist myself, I did appreciate this movie quite a bit. I really liked it. I think that a lot of the times in this movie when it's going into that role and that job, that underappreciated job on film sets, that was really cool. And when it lingered with those moments. For example, when he's out recording sounds, and it's just you see him move around the microphone, and you see, or you hear what you're seeing as well. I know that sounds like a very just simple thing from you hear what you see. Of course, yeah, you're going to. But just the way it's done, the very directional microphone that he has. He's almost studying the landscape with his microphone, with his ear. And also the times when he's playing back all of the sounds that he's recorded, and just the analog technology, and he's all playing with that, and just how that used to be. It was cool just to look at, but to try to as well be a part of the mystery. So it was just something cool in general to look at, and a process that maybe not a lot of people seen, but the actual mystery was really, really solid, and trying to figure out pieces through those bits of sound, replaying the sounds over and over as if we're John Travolta trying to figure out what happened, was a lot of fun. Just studying it. There are good mystery elements, bits of pieces, not only sound, but also just a few visual things that I think worked really, really well. Before I go into spoilers, I do think that the ending, yeah, it's a bit lackluster, I think. I think that the problem with this movie for me, the biggest thing is that the genre blend was a bit weird. It felt like a really good mystery. It definitely didn't take itself 100% too seriously, especially with what his job is, being a sound recordist for really cheesy horror movies. And just, yeah, there's a lot of comedy there. There are some just really short, quick moments that are supposed to be comedic. But then in the end, it kind of takes an action twist that I felt this detective mystery-esque kind of vibe, just this dark drama, borderline drama. It was working for me. And then there's one main big action set piece. I say there are a few moments where the movie kind of diverges from the main plot to a bit of action, but those are kind of important backstory or parallel stories that are actually really cool to see. And I really like those moments, especially with the flashback to his previous job, and then with some of the things that the killer's doing. Those stuff were really fun to watch. But the main action set piece at the very end with specifically John Travolta, it was just it felt really out of place. It felt really out of place. It felt like Mission Impossible when it shouldn't have. But then again, I did have problems with that, but the very ending, the last shot, the last line of the movie was awesome. It's a great ending. Just, it's dark, but the whole time, his character's not really the best person. You can kind of tell. He's just sleazy guy. Does what's gotta be done. What am I trying to say? He gets done what's gotta be done. It takes a very dark twist in the very, very end of the movie, and it's a cool concept. Again, just the very end was really okay. We'll go into spoilers now. Spoilers, full on. What I'm saying about the very end. So, okay, you know what? I'm not going to start at the end because I think there's a lot of context that's needed, especially with some of the things that I just said. So, like I said in the beginning, a lot of the stuff about recording the sounds, going out on that bridge, recording the sounds, pointing it at people. Again, also what I was saying with him being not the greatest person, he's literally eavesdropping on a couple, and he can hear them being that guy's creepy. Why is he looking at us? And he just looks and he keeps pointing the microphone and follows them. He's like, yeah, I am creepy, which is very creepy. And then he records the car accident, which is like literally the most pivotal moment of the entire movie. And we replay this moment so many times. And it was cool to kind of see some of the intricacies. When we see it for the first time, we see the car, it goes into the water, and he jumps in. He's like, Jesus Christ. Jumps in, saves the girl, sees that there's a guy dying in there, and then he jumps out with the girl. And in the background, I did notice, it's pretty noticeable because it goes to a wide shot. It doesn't focus in on it, but there's a wide shot of there's another person there, and he's like under the bridge, and he's just like snooping. He's like just snooping, he's running around, he goes up on the bridge, and it's like in the background. It's like, okay, something more is going on here than just a car accident. It's not somebody just driving. We know that from the beginning, and we're on his side. And I think something cool about this movie is that there's this edge that it takes where it's this news reporter who tries to get in touch with him, but then there's some people who aren't believing him. He's like, oh, no, I believe you. I believe you. But then so much of the media are talking about this event, and there's like so many conspiracy theories. There's this one guy at, I believe it was a newspaper or like, yeah, something reporting, and he doesn't like him, and he's like, you know how many conspiracy theorists I've had in here today? And this whole movie is kind of being on that side of the conspiracy, of the assassination conspiracy theorists, and being like, what if they were right? What if like these like coincidences that they say happen? It's like, oh, they recorded they erased my tapes that I recorded. I swear, they erased it just at this convenient moment. And what if that actually did happen? What if somebody actually did erase the tapes at the convenient moment? What if there was something more than what the police are saying, what the public is saying, what the media is saying? He's the one who knew. And it's like that, yeah, the conspiracy theorists in this movie turns out to be true. Is this movie pro-conspiracy theorists? We should believe everybody? No, but it's a fun ride to see like that side of the story. Going back to the very, very beginning, actually. Let's go way back. Just some of the filmmaking techniques. So at the very beginning, it starts off, it's like this slasher movie from a POV, very Halloween-esque. It's this guy going into like this sorority house. Bunch of women in their underwear dancing around. He like kills a cop outside who's like peeping in. He doesn't make a noise. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. He walks in, he goes, hides very conveniently. People definitely would have seen him. And then he gets out his knife and is about to stab somebody in the shower. Very Psycho-esque. So a lot of like nods to like old horror movies and like the cheesiness of that old horror wave that has happened. And then so we're watching this, and maybe I started to think, I was like, is this the movie? Like, what is this the intro? It's like, he definitely would have been seen. This is a weird vibe right now. I thought it was about sound recording. And then we pull out, and then John Travolta's like, that scream is horrible. And it was a horrible scream. It was really funny. Those are some of like those small funny moments. And there's also a funny moment later. Like that piece of like, we got to find the right scream, that like subplot with like the filmmaker to be like, we gotta get the right scream, hire an actress. And then like when they're recording the sounds of the two girls screaming in the booth, and then John Travolta, he's involved in this like conspiracy theory thing. And then they're like, oh, you've been gone all this time. Come check out these screams. And then three girls scream. And then he's like, no, we got to find more. They aren't it. Let's do this again. Yeah, that stuff was super fun. Like the behind the scenes filmmaking stuff. And there's like really cheesy B movie horror house. That stuff was a lot of fun. And then we get him, in the thick of his job. He's listened to all of his sounds, all his Foley that he's done. He's super cool with this analog technology, which is very cool. Being a sound recorder, it was great to see all that stuff. And we have this cool, like, split screen thing that it does. We have this, like, on the one side, it's a TV. It's very expositional. It's just an expositional technique. But it's like, yeah, we have the TV on the one side be like, there's this president candidate who was like this counselor, and then he's going to be up for presidency, and this very important Liberty Day thing celebration is going to happen. Everybody realize president candidate guy, Liberty Day, those two things are important. Audience watching, please, those are important. And then you realize that those are important things. And yeah, that's on one side of the screen, and the other side of the screen is him just like listening to his Foley sounds and doing his job while listening to the news. And I don't know, it was cool, it was fun, very stylistic. And then, so, in the meat of it, we have the person who died in the car crash, not the girl that he saved. The person who died in the car crash was this presidential candidate. And they initially want him to hush about it. They're like, we don't want his family to know that he was with a woman in this car, we don't want this to get out. And he's like, what? Come on, but, okay. And then he conveniently recorded the sounds, looks at it back, there's a gunshot. There's definitely a gunshot. His decibel meter blew out, and he knows something is going on, and he's going to get to the thick of it, because initially it's like, okay, really, maybe don't get involved. But then it's like, yeah, I guess they might want to tie up loose ends at some point. Gotta tell the truth. Okay, understandable. You could be one of those loose ends. And then, so yeah, he meets up with that girl. Him and Sally, not really great chemistry between them, I'll say it. She had a very, like, high-pitched voice. It was very interesting. I don't know how I felt about it. I thought she was okay. But, I mean, it is a very typical, like, the woman role to the male lead. And then, yeah, we have them hanging out, her going to meet with, what's that guy's name again? Manny, yeah. So, here's the gist of it. Manny works with Sally and put her in the car because they just wanted to get pictures of him doing this thing to defame him and ruin his chance at being president. But it went awry when somebody that they hired to take the pictures shot the tire and killed him. He wasn't supposed to die, Those scenes with Manny were pretty funny. Oh, he wasn't supposed to die. What are we supposed to do? What's with this conscience stuff you're talking about, huh? When did you grow a conscience? That stuff was great. Now, we move on to John Lithgow, who's a great villain. He was really good. I didn't know what I was expecting with him, knowing his reputation, seeing him in a few things. And it worked pretty well. I love, like, the casualness of him being in a phone booth and being, like, on the phone with the police as an anonymous caller, being like, yeah, I just, she wanted me to do it. She was asking for me to do it. Oh God, she's in this place. She's dead. And it's, and he's not actually making those faces. I'm not doing this analogy or this recreation justice. He's like, oh yeah, she wanted me to do it. I swear. Yeah, she really did. She really did. And he's just casually scanning the cars that are going by, looking for John Travolta, looking for Sally. He was very, like, menacing in the way that he was very calm about everything. He was the everyman, it could be anybody, that kind of thing. And I think it worked well. Yeah, like I said before, some of the scenes where he's, like, following a girl who kind of looked like Sally to, like, set up his murder of Sally to be a part of the string of murders, so it didn't seem like it was politically related. That was a cool plot point. I thought it was funny where it's like he's on the phone with the person who hired him, and they're like, oh, you weren't supposed to kill him. What? I don't know who you are. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And he's just like, I proposed this thing before, and it's, gotta go through with it. And he's like, oh, I have a plan. I'm gonna get rid of the loose end of Sally and make it look like a part of these sex killings that are going on. You hear about those sex killings? And it's like he's trying to do this cover up, and he's gonna be like, okay, to do this cover up, there's got to be a bunch of sex killings. I guess I gotta do those too. It's like he was a part of this crime, and then he was like, how do we figure this out? How do we tie this up nice and neatly? He was like, I'm gonna do more crime and do some sex killings. It's like I guess the guy who hired him was like, okay, I'm not talking to you anymore, but he should have been like all up and just be like, sex? Are you literally just like raping people? Like what is happening here? I thought that was like darkly funny by John Lithgow. I don't know. It's a silly plot point. It's a weird plot point. Into the meat of the movie. Yeah, he's got the recording. He gets those photos, makes a nice little flip book, digitizes them. It's like, oh, it doesn't line up. There's this flash. We know there's a gunshot. We got to get it to the police. And then we have this, in the middle of all this happening, there's this expositional scene where he's talking to Sally and he's trying to convince her not to take a train and go away. And he's like telling her his backstory, which was interesting. It's like, it was very expositional, him talking, but like the backstory was super interesting. It was him previously. He was in a group that were trying to bust corrupt cops. And on one job, he wired a guy because, he's a sound recordist. He wired this guy who's going in with a bunch of like corrupt cops. But then because of his wiring, he put the batteries right near his chest. And then he didn't expect the guy to sweat. And because he was sweating, it was getting all in the batteries and it was burning a hole in his chest. And that blew his cover and got him killed. So he got out of that. That's just such a cool backstory. Such a cool backstory. And then a lot of the things that were established, I think De Palma was really smart with this, where a few of the things established early on in the movie and kind of like in the middle of the movie were brought back for the finale, which I already said that I didn't love the finale, but some of the elements that were brought back, those callbacks were really cool. Because so we have this history of him where he blew that guy's cover because of his sound device on his chest blowing a hole in his stomach. And then later on, he has to wire up Sally. And it's like, okay, He's got to do this job right this time. He's learned from his past mistakes, and he didn't want to go back in that life anymore, but now he's back in it, trying to expose somebody, this time a criminal, and he's not going to mess it up. He's going to do it right this time. And then he doesn't. And that part of the drama was really good. That he was trying to do right by himself and his profession and do it correctly. And it was going correct until, he didn't get there in time. And again, it was his fault. Just like the other guy in his past. He went into a bathroom and he was like, oh, we gotta go save him right now. And then again, just a second too late. And it happens again. Tragedy. It was good. It was good stuff. And then also, with the very first scene of the movie, with that really bad horror movie that we're seeing with the killings and the guy in the sorority house, that kind of comes back via John Lithgow's character, going around murdering these women, kind of like this serial killer. We get to see his POV, not as in like POV shots, just as in like narrative wise, we see his POV. All that stuff was really, it was very well crafted until the final action set piece where, yes, he's running to find Sally, who they're in a subway, and he just misses the subway car. So he gets in his own car and he drives in the middle of this whole parade. He knocks down like these barriers and he goes through this bunch of cops. This whole parade is happening. Like, the security here is absolutely horrendous. It's crazy. And then he drives into a window just randomly. It's like, you did this whole thing and you drove into a window. It's like, this whole time you weren't steering out of people's way. You're like, all right, they're gonna get out of the way. I gotta go get Sally. Gotta go save her. And then in the end, you hit a window. And then he ends up in an ambulance. And again, you would think that, oh, this crazy driver, we gotta, keep him in the ambulance. Maybe have a police, watching over him. He just gets up and leaves. And he runs in the middle of a parade. Nobody's stopping him. That one thing, it's like, nobody's stopping him with any of this. And that action set piece, again, just felt like wasn't needed. It's like, he was doing this crazy driving, and then there's all this parade happening. And it's like, it would have been just as well if he's like, oh, he stops when the parade's happening, and then he gets there, it's like, I can't drive anymore. And then he starts to run. It's like, it would have had the same effect. I don't know why he had to have this crazy, just like, the action set piece just went too big, in my opinion. And then, again, he's listening in his headphones because she's still making up. He's like, oh, where is she? Where is he? And that stuff too, like finding her in the subway. She's like, he hears the subway sound. It's like, oh, we know you're in the subway. He hears like a word that she says was, oh, we're going to this place. Okay, I know where to go now. That stuff was awesome. And then he hears and sees her at the top. Again, why is there no security in this very big landmark area where this parade is happening? Somebody's just John Lithgow. Also, you're just gonna murder somebody right up there? Like, what's going on here, guys? Be smarter, please. And then John Travolta, just a second too late, ends up killing John Lithgow, but Sally already dead. Some of the visuals there with the fireworks was really cool. Him running in the fireworks, him holding her after she's dying with the fireworks in the background. Those shots, phenomenal. You can tell it's a green screen. There were a few green screen shots in this movie where you're especially when he was driving as well. Green screen there. Okay, it's 81, whatever. But that final moment with the fireworks in the background, just that image was really, really nice, really cool. And then cut to him back at his job watching that scream, and he inserted the scream of Sally as she was actually dying and put it in, and he said, that's a good scream. That's dark. It's so good. Oh, that's so good. Oh man, there's nothing else to say about it. That's just such a good ending. It's a phenomenal ending. Loved it. But that's Blowout. It was a fun ride. It really was. And I think that's, again, like I said, it was a very smart script until the end. I think, just the action set piece felt out of place. And also just with the images. There was a lot of cool close-ups of the technology, of the analog technology. There was a lot of like I said, stylistic, the two shots, the when he's listening in for the first time, trying to figure out what happened in the murder, we hear it, and then as he's visualizing it himself, we see him on the side of the screen, then it fades to the murder happening. Those visuals were really cool. And just the underlying themes were said very well with the corrupt politics, which is kind of the subplot, where it's you have this politician who wants people to just, put it under the radar. He knows that John Travolta saved the girl, but he's like, no, you gotta, keep it on the radar, all that stuff. him trying to uncover this conspiracy theory, the state of the United States with all this corrupt politics going on, this Liberty Bell parade, the red, white, and blue fireworks, quite a few red, white, and blue imagery, especially when John Lithgow is killing that other woman as a part of his series of sex killings. Very red, those shadows, really cool. I don't know, visually, really cool. Thematically, awesome. Again, yeah, that one set piece, chemistry between John Travolta and Nancy Allen. Few things that I had problems with, but overall, just a great 80s flick, standalone, like I said. Good time, good vibes. Sound recordist detective movie. That's up my alley. So yeah, really glad I watched it.